So right before we started, I was texting a friend, and I texted, about to go live with Paul, and after I sent it, you know what it looked like. I had to. I don't.
That's
I don't think I had to clarify, but
like you're just fed up. That's it.
I'm done.
I'm moving to a small town in Illinois. Um,
Hey, Paul, how's it going?
good, good. It's going well. I'm feeling all right. Uh, what can I say? I bought a sweater. It's extra large and it fits me. So there's that. That's going on.
It's retro. It's got that dark mustard stripy look, something you might
Yeah.
find in like the early '70s.
I am 5'9", 1.75 meters. I weigh about 100 and no, whoops, sorry, 210 pounds. I had inverted it. 210 pounds, which is 15 stone.
What do
So
you get?
another day older, deeper in debt. Speaking of which, I think we've talked about this before, but it's always great to mention it. We are recording this in the year 2023, Ben. Can you believe it?
23. I can.
February,
Well, I have to because that's reality.
we're recording this on February, I think is it the 2nd,
Groundhog Day.
2023? Hey, here we go again. Uh, and what I want to say to the people who are listening to this in the future, at this time, uh, the the billionaires on Earth have yet to establish their companies in space. Right now, the companies are still on Earth and therefore still beholden, at least right now, to Earth laws. They can't like circumvent. And we're not even talking about inspectors coming and taking a look for practices and stuff like that. All of that probably still happens. I mean, but if you can imagine, Amazon.com, there's at least one union that formed. I don't know if they're legal or not, but they did vote to form it. So that's a big difference between probably what's happening in the future right now. Is my guess.
You don't think
That
that space companies would allow unions to be part of the endeavor?
I think they would try very hard to keep them from forming. My guess is, and this is just a guess, Ben, that the people that are working. Well, here, ooh, Ben, here's a question. Do you know what salting is?
Salting.
Yeah, it's called salting. It's
Probably not in the context of what you're talking about.
it's where a member of a union goes to work at a place that doesn't have unions and just talks about how great unions are and tries to get people to join them. And I feel like that would be a cool idea for a TV show. Somebody who goes salting. It could even be called salting, and it happens at a salt mine on an asteroid. This guy who's trying to get people to unionize. It would be very much like that episode of Andor, where he's trying to get people to break out of that prison,
Right.
or episode and a half, or however you want to do it.
That was a long
Um,
Andor arc when he was in that prison colony.
yeah, so good, Ben. Andor is so good.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I'm not telling tales out of school, but I was at a Christmas party at one point in time with some of my relatives, and one of my relatives said to the other one, and I want to say this because I think it's true. The reason they said this was because they knew that the other relative would respond favorably to it. It wasn't necessarily what they believed. They said Andor was good, but it just wasn't Star Wars.
I think
Which,
that's what made it good.
yeah, exactly. This is the thing, is like you and I have the nostalgia spice for Star Wars. We will never look at Star Wars and go, "Oh, it's just bad."
Right.
You know, the writing's
Yeah.
bad or the things bad. It's what it needs to be, right? It's its own thing. And like I feel like if I can oh, I'm getting choked up. I can't believe it. I feel like everyone should have some theater classes in their lives. Theater is so good, Ben. You and I don't talk about it enough on this podcast,
Just
but
theater
I
in
think,
general?
yeah, just theater in general. I think both you and I, our lives were enriched. We had friends, and just art,
I mean,
enjoyment
it has
for being
informed
involved in theater.
it has informed my entire life since I was like 22.
Yeah, and
Look
again,
at where I
as a
am.
hey, yeah, right. And as an autistic person, theater was great because like I think I've mentioned this before. Script analysis, that class, and the concept of subtask as being something that you can subtask. I said subtext as something that you could intellectually figure out was a revelation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get it wrong, right? But it does help remove some of the mystery to that, and it makes me enjoy. Like I can enjoy stuff that other people would think is bad because if nothing else, I can go into analysis mode and like look at the craft of the thing and what was this joke that didn't land? What were they trying to do?
Well,
Right?
then have I got a show for you?
What is it, Ben?
Well, I haven't seen it, but my YouTube algorithm, for whatever reason, is trying to feed me videos, and it's overwhelmingly negative. I know I've
Was
just
it?
lost you. All right,
I
so
think you said reaction videos.
I know I disappeared for a bit because I saw YouTube flash,
Yeah.
but so YouTube maybe it heard me talking about it. Wants me to watch reaction videos about how bad the new Velma TV show is. Have
Oh
you heard
no.
of Velma, the new HBO Max cartoon?
I have seen this is the thing is I have HBO Max. I have been watching The Last of Us. And when I pull up The Last of Us to watch it, there are ads on the page
Yeah,
for Velma.
yeah.
So
So I've not seen the show.
I know about it.
I've not watched Velma, but judging by various YouTube thumbnails and like a headline that I read, I think on Reddit, which said Velma is irritating both the left and the right politically. Apparently, many people don't like this show. So,
Wow.
Paul, with your
Well,
script analysis superpowers and
Jeez.
and your analytical joke interpretations, watch Velma and let me know what you think.
I don't know, Ben. I don't think I need to watch it. Here's what. Yeah, this is my without watching it, just from the description you gave, doesn't know what it wants to be, and is trying to serve two masters, and therefore,
From what I
pleases
understand,
neither.
from what I understand, it doesn't know who its audience is. And
Let me ask you a question. It's
Velma-
from Mindy Kaling, I believe.
Mindy Kaling, yes.
Is she Thelma?
Yeah. So they've made Velma an Indian woman. Shaggy's African American. Daphne is half Japanese. So they've done all of this race switching. But oddly enough, that is not what people have a
It makes
problem
me a
with.
little bit more interested.
Yeah, no, that's
It makes me a little bit more interested in seeing it.
The this article that I read about it said that, or posited it. This isn't confirmed, but that this was going to be a completely different show. But then either HBO or Warner Brothers or somebody decided to shoehorn it into the Scooby-Doo IP to give it some appeal. And a lot of people are saying if this was its own thing, it might not. Well, it'll still be bad writing, but it might not be as. People might not react as vitriolic to it as they are.
Or so that they retain control of the IP. You know, they have to do that every once in a while. Like what I heard was
famously that's why Roger Corman made
Fantastic Four movie.
Fantastic Four. The first and the last Fantastic Four movies.
So yeah, I'm still waiting. Fantastic Four can work. Somebody just needs to do it. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think that once it does work, if the Fantastic Four does work, it's going to be like the popularity of it is going to be insane. That's just my thought.
It's possible.
Wait, Ben, look, this is my thought. If the Fantastic Four works, then it's going to be popular. I know, it's crazy. I don't know how I do it, but
tell me more about that script analysis class.
No, but the thing I will say is this, that there is a good chance that I will forget between now and then to watch it because I've got other stuff that I want to watch. Number one, I've started with series 1 of Taskmaster, and I'm already on series 10. Since we talked.
That is some dedication.
It is my favorite. Like it's like it's a show made just for me. Sort of like Dimension 20, sort of like Game Changer.
Yeah.
Right? There are certain things where I'm like, and this is why I have a subscription to Dropout, and Taskmaster has one called Taskmaster Super Plus. I do it because I feel as though I'm supporting, like, this is a show that I like that isn't going to go off the air because I'm actually paying money for it, if that makes sense. Taskmaster, British. As you know, the American Taskmaster show did not do well, which is too bad because Reggie Watts was the Taskmaster on it. For some reason, it didn't work, which is too bad. But by subscribing to the channel, I not only get all of the episodes of Taskmaster, but I also get all the foreign episodes of Taskmaster. And there's one from Finland. As you know, I was trying to learn how to speak Finnish at one point in time. So this might be a good way for me to do it. Should be kind of cool.
What channel do you subscribe to that it's on?
Oh, no, it's its own channel.
Oh, it's its own
Taskmaster has its own channel that you subscribe to. And it's called called Taskmaster Super Max Plus, which I think they did on purpose. It's really great. Do you know the story behind it at all?
I know nothing about it other than what you've said.
So in a way it sort of parallels us, but not really. And what I mean by that is there's this guy, his name's Alex Horn, and he does a Taskmaster, he did this thing at Fringe theaters where he made people complete tasks and do things like parlor games, right? For him. And it was really, they were inventive. It was really popular, and he sold the show, right? And now I'm getting a little bit like, this is what I believe, both from what I've read and what I've seen. I might be a little bit off, but this is what I understand. He sold it, and they were filming and stuff like that. And then they said, we like the show, but we don't like you as the Taskmaster. And so they brought in another guy, made him the taskmaster, but because they already had footage of this other guy like putting people through the stuff,
The
they made
originator.
him that guy's assistant, right? So if you can imagine, it would be like if GudeLaurance got a show and they said, "Okay, this is pretty good, but it's not it could be better. We're going to bring in Kevin Kent to tell you guys what to do." So you're still going to be doing all of your stuff, all of your bits that you do, but
Right.
we're going to film interstitials with Kevin Kent telling you guys, "Hey, I want one of you naked in a box and I want another one," like that sort of thing.
I'd watch that show.
I'd watch that show too. And so the thing that's great about it is that Alex Horn, being the guy who runs the show, and again, if there are any Taskmaster heads out there who know something different than what I'm saying, just roll with it. It's going to be fine. Alex Horn has written his character, the character of Alex Horn for the show, as being constantly bullied by Greg, the guy who runs the show, and it's wonderful. Greg Davies, it's spelled Davies, but he pronounces it Davis. So Greg Davis is, and you might actually have seen him on some of the other British panel shows. He's not Richard Osman, which is important. Richard Richard Osman, glasses, tall guy. Does Pointless is one of his shows, which is a totally different thing. Anyway, not him, but this guy is 6'8" and funny. Used to be a theater teacher, now is a stand-up comic and actor, and he is the Taskmaster. And like I said, the American version, Reggie Watts was the Taskmaster, but it didn't do well. And I think it was because of the contestants not knowing the format well enough. And maybe it only works. Well, no, it's already in its other series in other countries. I was going to say maybe it doesn't work unless you're British, but that doesn't seem right.
Well, the Americans, they screw everything up.
They kind of do.
I
They
don't blame
kind of
Reggie,
do.
but he was probably given too many constraints by the producers.
Again, like I said, I think the main thing that I saw was that the people that were doing the tasks weren't, like, you have to actually try to do the task, right? You have to try to get the thing done. And the people that were on the show at that time weren't good at doing it.
But they probably were good at creating drama and conflict, right?
Yeah, which wasn't really. And I think that's the main thing, is that it's not a reality show. It sort of is. And if you were in the United States and you had a steady diet of reality shows, you would think that it was. But there's more to it than that. It's more of a game show. It's more of an actual, think creatively show, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I see you looking at something and about to saying something. I see you looking at something and about to saying something. That's what I said.
No, I'm not saying anything. I was gonna say that you're like speeding through 10 seasons of Taskmaster. I guess I can get. I got really into Mock the Week, and I just hoovered up all the episodes that I could find on YouTube. But there's still a lot more out there. I don't have like BritBox or anything like that. I was just whatever random person uploaded an episode of this TV show to YouTube was how I watched it.
Here's what I can say. Some members, or some people that have been on Mock the Week, have also been on Taskmaster.
Yeah, I see a lot of the same people on various panel shows. There's a comedian, an Irish comedian named Ed Byrne, who's on Mock the Week, who I saw in an episode of Have I Got News for You?
Yeah, I think Ed Gamble is on Mock the Week sometimes as well. He's a diabetic. Yeah. let's see. There is, oh God, Josh Whitcomb.
Josh Whitcomb.
Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, a
that's a
bunch of
dude.
other people too. Was
They
Bob
all.
Mortimer ever on Mock the Week at all?
I don't remember that name.
He's an older guy. He's funny. That's the only thing that I was thinking of. I still look forward to Ben. It's not that far in the future. You and me as like 65-year-old dudes who nobody knows doing weird stuff, and people are like, "Who are these guys?"
Where did they
You know,
come
our our,
from? We've been
our
around for
second
years.
renaissance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Last of Us. Are you all caught up? Of course you are.
Oh, I am all caught up.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, so good.
I
Uh,
so I have I do not play the game. I have never played the game.
yeah,
So I am sure that there's a lot of stuff that I just basically don't get in the TV show that is, let's say, a reference to the game. However, I don't think it decreases my enjoyment of the show at all. It's very compelling. And this last episode, episode 3,
let's
uh,
say spoilers for episode 3, just because.
has been touted as making a run for one of the best episodes of TV of the year.
Yeah, and I will say this. I did play the second one much more than I played the first one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like like I don't know if I'm at the I played I played the second one all the way through. The first one, um, I separated from it pretty quickly. So I can't say how much of what was in episode 3 was in this. But the the thing I would say is that, in my opinion, episode 3 showed, like, okay, this is going to be a good TV show, right? Like,
Yeah.
this was the drama, the Chernobyl stuff. If I can use that as an example, like because it wasn't about the monsters. It was about the people, which is kind of what you want. And like, it one of those things where you knew, okay, if we can get really specific, right? When Bill apologized to Frank about how he was getting old. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm getting older." Uh, and then you saw the next scene kind of after that was Frank in the wheelchair and Bill, like being more able-bodied and stuff. It was just crushing. It was like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's and the fact that the apocalypse did affect them because there was nothing they could do, you know but then again, maybe there wouldn't have been anything they could do. It that they did a lot to protect themselves, but you can't protect yourself from the frailty of being human, basically.
Yeah, it was really I really enjoyed it because it did a great job of showing Bill's character and how Frank gave him a purpose.
Yeah,
You get the sense that Bill would have survived for as long as he did. In fact, probably before even before I was about to call it the pandemic, even before the apocalypse, hated being around people anyway. But Frank gave him a purpose and a reason for doing what he did. And I don't know if you listened to the podcast,
no,
the
I don't.
the official companion podcast of Last of Us with hosted by Troy Baker, who apparently plays Joel in the video game, and with Craig Mason and Neil
DeGrasse Tyson.
Exactly. No, Patrick Harris. And
It's crazy. The stars were completely off.
so apparently in the video game, Frank meets a very well. That relationship has a very different ending.
Oh yeah, tell
And
me about it. Because I
um,
like I said, I didn't play.
so originally, what I guess was they have a bit of a falling out, Bill and Frank. And so when Joel and Ellie come upon the compound, they see Frank hanging from a tree. He had hanged himself.
Ooh,
Now, I think it goes a bit further than that. One of the things that, big again, like I'm only getting what they say in this podcast, and so apparently, what happened was they did, like Bill and Frank did have a falling out, but Frank, I think, got bit, so he hanged himself before he could turn.
uh,
But the
yeah,
the TV show ending, even though they both die, it is a more satisfying, happy ending.
yeah, truly. And the thing that I really liked, again, this is filmmaking stuff. Um, I like the fact that in the end we go through the window, right? So in the end we're in that room with them,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
camera never turns around.
yeah, exactly.
So you give them their privacy, but you're with them, kind of.
That's also apparently a motif from the video game, which is you start each chapter with a window frame and blowing curtains. Again,
Yeah,
something I hear on the podcast,
yeah.
but they were going to they were they say in this podcast that they were going to use that window frame motif at the beginning of each episode, but decided they went so far as to film all of it. But at the very end, they decided not to, and I think it was a good choice because it has that nice double meaning there at the end of episode 3, and it's a lot stronger visual.
And so we also learned then, we learned that they were the ones that came up with the radio code,
Yeah,
and that the problem wasn't that the zombies got them, or the clickers or whatever,
clickers. Yeah,
the infected didn't get them, timed it, and it was just set to go off after a little bit.
yeah,
One of the other things that I like a lot, I mean, again, it might be like this in the video games, but I don't remember it. The I mean, because honestly, when I play video games, sometimes I gloss over the things people are saying and all that. But the idea that they have this sort of network, the mycelial network or whatever, between the fungi that
he's a real fun
communicates,
guy. Yeah,
where yeah, I mean, and the strands coming out of the mouth and stuff like that. I think that's new. I don't think that's. I mean, the fact that it, you know is fungus is in the game. I
yeah.
just mean that specific visual. I don't
Yeah.
remember it being in there, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so
Uh,
good, so good.
yeah. There's one more. Oh, when Doctor Who has an episode, I think Blink is one of these episodes where it's the Doctor's barely in it. They call it a
Yeah,
Doctor Light episode. Sometimes they're also bottle episodes. This episode was very much a Doctor Light episode.
right.
Um, but it was, yeah, it was really really good, and I watched it a day. I watched it on Monday. I wasn't able to see it on Sunday, but I did see it
Uh
on
huh.
Monday. And fortunately, nothing. I don't know if anything can be spoiled for me because like I'm going into it sort of blind anyway, not having played the video game. But yeah, that was just. I guess if there were any spoilers that I heard over the course of the workday on Monday, it was like, oh my god, this episode is so great. So like going in thinking, oh, this is going to be a great episode.
Yeah.
which sometimes can be a mood killer when you watch what the great episode is and it turns out not to be as great. But this one,
Yeah.
delivered as promised.
So, I want to say, speaking of Dr. Light, there are two things.
Fewer calories than
Teen
regular
Titans.
Doctor.
No, um, but no. What I was going to say is there is a thing called a community called Super Hulock that I've just found out about. That is
Super
the
Hulock.
the supernatural Doctor Who Sherlock fan community, which apparently was on Tumblr in the 2013s. That was insufferable, and I just found out about them 10 years later.
You mean
So
a Tumblr community was insufferable?
someone made a reference to it. I had no idea what it is, so I had to look it up. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is the idea that the main character isn't in that episode for a while. Spoilers, get ready for Poker Face. Ben, have you seen it?
I have not seen Poker Face,
Poker Face,
but I
is
knew it's the new Natasha
really-
Lyonne vehicle.
Yeah, well, also done by Mr. Knives Out himself, Ryan Johnson. Johnson. Wrote and directed at least some of the episodes that I've seen. The premise is that she can tell when people are lying. It's not magical. It's just something that it's nice. They just establish, yeah, this is something that happens, and then you go on from there.
Wasn't there a Tim Roth TV show called Lie to Me? Was that
Yeah.
the same sort of premise?
The same sort of premise, yeah, except that, whereas he was a doctor with a bunch of degree, he was a professional person that would be consulted and all that. She's just a person who can do this, and some people believe her and some people don't, and it's which kind of person it is depends largely on what is needed for the plot.
Right.
It's great though. I really like it. The reason, and I don't think I'm going to spoil this for you, and if I do, I apologize, but spoilers for everybody else just in case. One of the things that's nice is that it uses this sort of format trick that I've never seen before in another show. And this is why I wanted to mention it, because I wanted to know if this sounds like anything that you've seen before. And the other reason why I thought, because you've seen Glass Onion, right?
Yeah.
It feels like this is something that Ryan Johnson is trying to play with a little bit. You see this person, like you remember in Columbo. Did you ever watch Columbo at all?
Oh yeah.
You'd see the murder happen first, and then Columbo would.
Audience knew who did it. Yeah.
So it's very similar to that, but the difference is there's a subtle difference, but it's worth it. You see the murder, right? Then our detective, Charlie, Natasha Lyonne's character, enters like halfway through. At the halfway point of the show, she enters. But the thing is that she enters before the murder happens. And you see that she's actually been there the whole time. Right? And you see the scenes that you didn't see that she was in. If that makes sense. Which is kind of cool. It's a really interesting narrative thing. And as I was watching it and I noticed it, I'm like, this is really clever. I also was like, because they've set this up, one, it's cool, and two, you're not seeing her. She doesn't have to work as much. They don't have to, it's always supporting characters.
Right.
For most of it, and then she comes back in. But because they go back in time, when you remember the episode, it was like she was there the whole time. You don't go, I can't believe it. This is her show, but I didn't even see her until the last half of it. It's no good. Doesn't happen because they write their way around it.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Haven't seen it. I am making my way through season 2 of White Lotus right now. Have you seen White Lotus?
I haven't seen White Lotus season 1 or 2.
All right.
Uh,
Well, actually, the guy who plays Frank is in White Lotus season 1, and it was interesting
oh,
because I watched White Lotus season 1, and then I'm watching like The Last of Us episode 3, and I'm like, is that can't be? Is it? It looks like him. It's just one of those coincidences where I just happen to be watching two of that actor's
yeah.
jobs, like back to back,
It is interesting
unintentionally.
when that happens. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Murray
saw
Bartlett, that's the dude's name.
Blue Sunshine, a movie from the 1970s, just recently.
Blue Sunshine.
1977, Blue Sunshine, and it's full of people that look kind of like someone else, if that makes sense. But
Sorta.
one of the
Yeah.
things is that okay, so did you ever see The Americans, the TV show?
No.
Or God, there's so many things that he's been in, but it's one of those situations where there is a guy, and if this had been shot now, I would have sworn that he was this that the guy that I was watching was this actor. But of course he wasn't because it was 1977. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's got to be this guy's dad then. But not necessarily, right? One of those things. And also, um, there's a scene that apparently got used over and over again in clubs like CBGB and stuff like that when punk bands were playing, of this guy going berserk and killing people in a disco.
Panic at the
And
Disco.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, this show is really the first time that I've thought about disco music in anything other than I'm supposed to hate disco. Like that was my introduction to it. Was like this music is music that you're supposed to hate. And when I listen to it now, I'm like, oh well, this is just the birth of electronic music. It really, the of the dance music, dance,
Yeah.
kind of, and
It's yeah, yeah.
and it also made me think. Okay, so I don't remember when Rapper's Delight from Sugar Hill Gang came out,
I want to say that too was like 77, 78.
but I was like, you could completely, with time travel or whatever, introduce rap way before. Like you could have somebody rap over 1950s music, instead of singing Good Golly Miss Molly, you could have people rapping over it. It drives home this thing that I was talking about before in one of the previous episodes, that artists are important. No doubt about it. Artists are very important for new things and all that. But we sometimes discount the importance of an audience. That cool audiences need to happen too. And like you and I know this just for sure because we've done stuff with Annex Theater audiences, the Spin the Bottle audience. And then we've done stuff at other places that aren't the Spin the Bottle audience. And there's something to not to discount, other audiences, but the smartness of the Spin the Bottle audience and the willingness to get weird and all that kind of stuff was important for us, as performers.
Yeah. I mean, there
Like,
are a lot of factors involved in that. Like the Spin the Bottle audience was it was a late night, heavy drinking crowd, and so they were the drinking part in terms of like they were more willing to accept the weird stuff as opposed to like just being mean drunks at like a stand up club.
yeah,
But also we that audience knew us. We were a known commodity for them, for like probably a majority of the audience. And so when we would go to other venues and people didn't know who we were, it was probably the reaction was very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, in those reactions, and I think we did well. The reactions that we normally shot for and often got were, what the heck did I just see? Whereas with our own audiences, we had to work a little harder sometimes because they knew a lot of our tricks,
Yeah.
you know. And it's one of those things like old favorites where oh, Ben and Paul are throwing stuff at each other again. That people always like that, in general it was a good thing if we didn't do it too often, too many times, and all that. And we talked about this already. Ben,
Brett.
Brett Fetzer. When he thought that we were sort of resting on our laurels a little bit too much.
That kind of put a fire under us.
Rest on our laurels. Okay. So laurels, those are the wreaths that you get, right? Don't you get laurels when you do well in like ancient Rome or Greece or whatever?
I don't know
I think that's what rest on
beginning.
I think that's what resting on
Yeah.
your laurels means.
Like,
It means that you're
when you've like shown at a film festival, you can put that little like thing on your
Yeah.
advertisements as laurels on the other side. Resting
right.
on those
You're saying
not trying anymore.
I've already done
reached
good
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that thing of somebody being asked to audition and just pulling Oscars out of their bag or whatever. Oh, speaking about resting on his laurels, look at this guy.
Hey, Edward.
So I work down here. This is what my workspace looks like.
Yeah.
Any remote viewers wanting to spy on me, get a picture in your head of it. Oh, teleporters, stay out. But so I'm working here, and as you probably noticed, and those of you who are watching this on YouTube, go back when it's do we keep these up on YouTube? Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, go back and you'll see he has a little dog bed that's sitting by my chair, and he gets up in the dog bed and then he looks at me and whines a little bit, and then I pick him up and I put him in my lap, and then I'm just working away, typing with him, and he'll lick my hands while I'm typing, and I'll be like, "Stop it!" Like that. But he came to me a couple of days ago, and he had a big red scratch down his little muzzle here. And Jennifer and I had been telling him not to pester the cat because eventually he was going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
And he got it. So I looked it up online about how to treat, because it wasn't like a big open wound or whatever. It was a scratch.
Right. Yeah.
And they said you put antiseptic on it. And so I put Bactine on it. And of course the dog's like, "Oh, what's this? Gonna lick the Bactine." Didn't like it. Wasn't a big fan. Oh, I just
I am not a big fan of Bactine either.
Yeah, but you don't lick it.
No, I would just complain to my parents when they would try to
Because it
spray
stings
that
a little
on my...
bit.
Oh, it stings a lot. It hurt. It hurt more than what it was trying to cure.
Yeah. I wanted to say, speaking about childhood a little bit, I was able to order grape laces. You remember grape laces? They're like like
food?
licorice, and they're like licorice laces, but they're grape flavored.
Are they like red vines but purple?
Except they're thin, long strands, laces, right?
Okay.
Is that
Yeah. I think they used to sell those, not the grape ones, but the red licorice ones at the skating rink when I was a kid.
Exactly. And Ben, I don't know if it's different, but in the Midwest they had grape flavored ones there too. The exact same ones, though. Those are the ones you're thinking about.
I don't think Skateland and Lacey Washington had grape ones, but they definitely had the red ones.
Yeah, but
The
like
which flavor was red? It wasn't strawberry or raspberry. It was
right.
just red flavor.
But Bartell Drugs used to have it. Schwartz Drugs used to have them. Drugstores in general, like the Walgreens, right?
Yeah,
Nowadays, you would expect Walgreens would have them, but they don't have them anymore. But I found a supplier,
a dealer.
$13 for way too many. Um,
Are you the
but
only
I
one in
love
your
them.
house? Are you the only one in your household who is going to be eating these, or do Jennifer and Betty like them as well?
They do not like them, but this
Yeah.
guy,
We went to when I was there. We went to a candy shop on Route
yep.
66. Is that place still there?
Oh, we don't go there anymore, Ben. They have a giant Donald Trump statue now.
Oh, that statue was not there when we visited.
Yep, it was not, and it was enough for us to go, okay,
Yeah,
that's all right. No
that's a
thanks.
shame.
Yeah. Even because the thing was, I think it might have been Betty. Maybe it was Jennifer, but I think it was Betty. It was like maybe it's ironic. And no, I think it was Betty. And Jennifer is like, you don't spend that much
Yeah.
on irony. Um, but
Not if it was just a plain, straight up statue and didn't have like he wasn't in drag or something.
right. Well, it wasn't. It's not a great statue, but I don't think that that's intentional. I
Yeah.
don't think it's not great intentionally. Oh, speaking about which, Blue Sunshine, the TV show, I mean the film that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
It's about so basically in 1967, this is the storyline. 1967, someone at Stanford makes this batch of LSD that 10 years later makes people go bald and start killing people. Uh,
All
it's
right.
it's pretty good. In a
Because in
it for a movie with that as the plot, not bad.
because in 1977, that's the worst thing that can happen to a person is going bald.
Um, exactly. So the but in the end, this politician who had ended up, you know, it turns out that he was the dealer at the time. Um, says they're gonna make America good again,
Oh God.
and I was just like, did someone on the campaign see that and was like, I'll do you one better? Maybe so.
It's possible.
Oh man, the United States is weird, Ben. We're getting
Are you?
close to another election time, which is strange. I don't know any news that's going on. I'm just thinking about it, time wise.
Nothing really big as far as I am aware of. I mean, like no major developments in the Russia-Ukraine war, no big political scandals right now, unless you want to talk at length about the classified documents that are being found in various politicians' houses.
Here's the thing I will tell you about classified documents being found in politicians' houses. It is it is interesting because if the classified documents are detailed, that's a breach of national security, and the news station shouldn't do it. So they shouldn't say what the classified documents are. If you don't say what the classified documents are, that's not really that big of a story because nobody knows what it is, right? So it's a sort
Right.
of a catch-22.
Yeah. I've not heard about the details of any of the documents, but I did hear that if the former president had just turned over the documents that he had when asked, it would not have been a thing.
Yeah, well, this is, I mean, I can tell you what I understand about it, and like I said, I don't know what these documents are, but when you are a prominent person, like the President of the United States of America, some of your communications, some of your personal papers, right? Like stuff that you have of your own, notepads, little, things like that. All those things could be classified documentation, right? You have to check,
Right.
you have to do due diligence to make sure that none of that stuff falls under, classified material. So it could simply be a situation where, there was a box that had stuff in it and it was, just accidentally taken. But when you become president of the United States, oh, we just accidentally took that isn't a good excuse. You're supposed to have people that do all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's so there's that. And then the other thing is, of course, if you're known to promise people things or, be a big shot, like to brag about stuff that that other people don't, things like that, it becomes kind of a bigger deal a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, it could be sensationalized because people don't know what it is. Who's to say?
Who's to say? But also, I do know we already mentioned this today, but today is February 2nd, 2023,
Oh, yes.
Groundhog Day. Paul, do you know whether or not Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow?
I do not know. Ben, did Punxsutawney Phil see his shadow?
Punxsutawney Phil apparently did see his shadow, which scared him back into his hole, which means we have 6 more weeks of winter ahead of us.
That sounds plausible.
Which I really don't get the whole mythology behind that, because if he sees his shadow, that means it's sunny.
Yeah,
And there's more winter ahead.
it can be sunny and cold at the same time, though.
Which is what it's like here in the Northwest during this time. It is freezing, but it's bright AF outside. Not right now because it's almost 5 o'clock, but...
Oh, it's time for Paul's joke roundup. Paul's joke
Da-da-da-da!
roundup. Hey, Ben,
Yes, Paul.
why did Jim Henson make Muppets for people on their birthday?
Why did Jim Henson make Muppets for people on their birthday?
Because he wanted his presence to be felt.
I got one that's similar.
I made that up. That one
I got one that's similar that I didn't make up. I don't remember where I read this, but Luke and Darth Vader. Darth Vader says to Luke, "Luke, I know what you're getting for your birthday."
Oh, yeah.
And Luke's like, "How do you know what I'm getting for my birthday? I felt your presence."
Yep. As soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh, I know where this is going." It's good.
Yep.
Let's see. There was another one. This is what made me think of jokes in general. This person was like talking about the difference between warm cold and cold. They were like from Canada.
Yeah.
And they said there's a difference between warm cold and cold. Someone's like, "Well, what's the difference?" And he says, when it's warm cold, I take my dog for a walk wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. And I said, "Man, I can't get my dog to wear anything." Which I thought was good. Pretty fun.
I see those people around Seattle all the time. It can be 30 degrees and you still have bros walking around in cargo shorts and t-shirts. And I'm like, dude, you're not Are you trying to prove a point about how tough you are? It is effing freezing.
Here's something that I've learned uh, just by being lazy and living here. I can go outside when it's freezing in just, you know, shorts, tank top, and Crocs in the snow if I'm only going to be out for a little bit and I'm going right back inside.
Of course, yeah.
Like I can,
Like
you know,
just going out to
mentally
get the
it's like,
mail or something.
yeah, it's really cold and all that, but there's that off chance that, you know, you'll be, if you're going to be locked out or whatever, then it becomes a problem for sure.
My parents would always try to instill that into me when I would leave, when I got my driver's license and I would head out in my car. If it was, you know, they would always be like, make sure you have like your raincoat, a hat, a pair of gloves with you. And I'm like, why? I'm just going to school and I'm coming back. I'm barely going to be outside, you know. But that one time when you get a flat tire and you have to spend,
Yeah.
you know, a half an hour on the side of a road shivering and wet because you're and changing your flat tire, that's when you wish you'd had your jacket.
Hey, timestamp this. It's 57 minutes and 34 in.
Are you gonna swear?
Jennifer was in. No, it's just a funny thing. Jennifer was in my car, and she wanted to get something out of the glove box, and I had, and this is like the idea that you have to understand is that this was a slow accumulation of things that I would just shove in my glove box,
Yeah.
right? But I ended up having a hatchet and zip ties and like two other things. I forget what, but it looked like I was a murderer. And I'm like, well, that's just crazy. And in the back in my trunk, after we talked about this, I had boiler suits, contractor bags, a sledgehammer, a hacksaw, just like all these things that she was like, if you get pulled over and you have all these things in your car, you're a person of interest. There's nothing around it. So, like I said, I put that timestamp on there just in case we need to prove that this is something that I have done in the past. Yeah, exactly.
Exhibit A, a podcast Paul recorded on Groundhog's Day 2023. I was watching
the Groundhog's Day killer that we've been looking for.
Well, it's the Groundhog's Day killer again. He's now a serial killer. I was watching Watchmen again, the HBO TV show, and I noticed something this time that I hadn't caught on the last time. So Paul,
yes,
the compartment in your dashboard where you keep things, what do you call that?
Glove box.
Yeah. In the TV show, and I don't know if this is a colloquial thing for the South or if it's something that they are intentional and that this is how language is going to change in this alternate future, they just call it the glove.
Huh.
They don't call it the glove box. Twice already they said it's something is in the glove. And I've never heard it just called the glove other than this TV show.
Interesting. I really like that show. It was a good one, as they say. For sure. And hey, you know what else was a good one? This episode. It's really, I liked it a lot. And it's always nice talking to you, Ben. I'm going to talk to you again next week, I believe, around this same time.
Same time from when we started, not from now, because if you just joined us this time next week, the show will be over.
Good point. Same time, same. Well, different Zoom. You'll a totally different Zoom call.
You know, if I were more
link.
Zoom, if I were more Zoom smart, I'd set up just a standard GudeLaurance podcast link. But I don't.
Let's not do that though.
Create a new one every time.
That's right. And just like we create a new podcast episode every time, Ben, and until then, I'm going to ask you to please keep it wrong.
Keep it wrong, Paul. I'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.